Welcome back. We're Performance Agile. I'm Vince.
And I'm Eric.
And today we're going to pick up where we left off. This is part 2 of a 4-part series. Today we're talking about the team. And our quote for today is, "Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success." None other than from Henry Ford. So we've started talking about the major roles that go into this agile transformation. Those that are, you could search and find, some information on the product owner, the team, and the scrum master. What are your thoughts on what constitutes an agile team?
Well, even that concept of an agile team has been defined and redefined as of late. Back in the 90s, you had a scrum team, and a scrum team was a cross-functional, fully autonomous team that had every role and responsibility that you could think of, from business analysts, like technical writer, coders, QA, like round about 7 to 9 people on that team. But then when Kanban started picking up traction, and if you look at like your Kanban board, and when it flows through the statuses, they have like a requirements team, a coding team, and a QA team, and they start allowing for more specialized teams to come back into the picture. And then now you have DevOps or DevSecOps, which again kind of gets back to a cross-functional team, but now you're bringing in more roles, more responsibilities. So agile teams are ebbing and flowing, and I think really the crux of what an agile team is that it fits the needs of the organization. It fits the needs of what you need to do, what your product line is, what you're building, what you're needing to deploy. How secure does it need to be? Does it need the Sec and DevSecOps, right? It's what your agile team should fit the needs of your organization, which I think is, instead of just labeling branded teams, it's, well, what does your agile team makeup need to be?
Sure. So you've hit upon a couple of really good things that I think we need to explore a little bit more deeply. So traditionally, so we're finding first of all that a lot of the original agile foundational things has evolved. It's changed. It's kept up with the times, right? So it has kept itself relevant, right? How ironic. So yes, so traditionally when those that have been exposed and working within some agile framework from early on, the team has always been referenced to a group of developers and QA people, right? The tech team, the solutioning team, a small group of people, and how many is the ideal number of a team? What is that window?
7 plus or minus 2.
Yeah,
so like 5 to
7.
9.
Yeah, 7 plus or minus 2. So that's always been the gold standard for the perfect size team. But I think that over time, as you have very clearly stated, that that's not really a hard and fast rule all the time. Sure, that's a great place to start. And yes, cross-functional means a variety of different skills, right? So instead of just one skill, I can do this.
Right, instead of like saying you have a C++ dev team.
Yeah. Well, or even so 2 doesn't make up a team, that's a pair. Right. So we need to have more than a few people on this team. But if we were on a team and you only did C++ and I only wrote SQL statements, or I only wrote automated tests, or I only did this one thing.
And you had the "it's not my problem" mentality.
Not very cross-functional.
Well, and it's,
right?
You're also not sharing the burden of the team's responsibilities.
Exactly. So the ideal team, folks, when we're talking about the agile technology team, is a team that is made up of people who can pick up the slack, right? They we're either working in a sprint or we're working off of our Kanban, and so we see a gap. And so if we're in a sprint, we are helping each other out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go back to the reference where, the military, military teams, they train together, they live together, they work together, they eat together, and when they are deployed and they're in it for real, no one gets left behind, right? So it's that mentality that, when in Agile and we're working in a sprint and we're trying to reach that goal, if someone is falling behind, it's like, hey man, not my problem. Too bad for you. I'm going home, right? That's not the way it needs to be. So everybody pitches in, helps each other out, learns something new. So that's the ideal Agile team, right?
Well, the entire concept of Scrum and where Scrum gets its origination is from the game rugby, right? And a Scrum is when a bunch of people they put their heads together over the ball, and then they move the ball around the field together as a team, as a Scrum. So when you start talking about collective ownership, collective responsibility, you can't just have one guy pick up, I don't know what they call that little rugby ball, but run it.
It's
down
a ball.
Run it down the field alone. He's got to throw it to his partner, and then the partner's got to throw it to another partner, and it's developing software is very much a team game.
Right. It is very much a team effort. So the team as a role. So when we talk about, because that's how we started talking about this in the first place, it's a role. You got the product owner, the team, and the Scrum Master. So as a role, this collection of people, this body of people, what do we mean by a role? Does this team as a role have a voice?
They do. They do have a voice. So when we were talking about in the last video with the product owner being responsible for prioritizing the backlog. Mm-hmm. So say the product owner has prioritized the backlog and they said, this is the highest priority piece of work. It is now the team's responsibility as that collective to come in and review the new prioritized work and make sure that it is understood, it is well defined, it is clear and actionable. Right? They can say, okay, we're looking at the work that has been written and prioritized by the product owner, the BAs, or whomever brings the work to the team.
Right.
We say we understand it, and we can act on it. And whether there's clarification or it's too big, they say it needs to be further refined, or say you're planning for your next iteration, and you're planning for your increment, your program increment, you can say the team has the responsibility of saying, this is what we can accomplish. We can only accomplish 5 stories or 2 features or 1 piece of the prioritized, backlog items. So we say they have a voice because they can say what their limits are.
Absolutely. So it is a constant dialogue, because that's one of the things about Agile is the power of collaboration, right? So when we talked about the product owner being responsible, huge responsibility in owning and managing the backlog, right? And we identified that this person can't do it alone. They need the input from the team as part of that dialogue. Now, does that mean the team out prioritizes or has the last word over the product owner on the material or the information? The what is how we characterized it in the backlog? No, they do not. But why wouldn't the product owner want to keep that dialogue open with the team on what's in there, right? Just like you said, have to understand it. And if the team says, whoa, product owner, I know that you've prioritized this one thing pretty high, but upon further review of the play on the field, right? To keep your analogy going,
or the football one,
right? Sure. We think that we're not actually going to be able to accomplish that if you were to want us to put that in the next sprint, and here's why. So let's talk about that. So we can overcome some of those things that we think are going to block us from being successful if we were to take that on in a sprint. So it's a dialogue, right? And that's a voice.
Yeah, and another good example, another good analogy is you can't put a roof on a house before you've before you've dug the foundation.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that. Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at a backlog and you're saying, oh man, the roof is the highest priority thing, but the foundation, the basement, especially here in the Midwest, I hear people on the coasts don't grow up with basements. That was kind of a shock to me. I've always grown up with one. I never considered it a thing. But it's like if you're looking and you're saying, hey, well, our foundation, our basement, whatever the bottom layer of our houses is further on down the list, your construction expert might go to your product owner and go, hey, I think we need to reprioritize a few things to have a more successful outcome, deliver more value.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
You bring that voice to the team.
Absolutely. So another aspect of this team's voice. So they're equal, and there's a balance, right? So there's checks and balances that are going on here. And we already mentioned that the product owner can't run roughshod over the team, right? So that's an old project manager drawback that there have been. So this is not all project managers, but there is a history of project managers basically beating down the team that you're not doing enough, you need to add more, do more, work extra, we'll add surge dollars, work on the holiday and the weekends. Mm-mm. So the team has a voice on what we would call helping define what those work limits are, work in progress limits, if we are doing Kanban, or what the team's capacity is in any given sprint. Right. So that is a voice that the team has in that dialogue with that product owner as to what will be accomplished in a period of time, right? By the team, collectively, not by individuals. It's a team effort. It's always the team.
Right.
So that's why, it's a role.
Mm-hmm.
They have a voice, and they can police themselves, protect themselves, and they are a huge aspect of the success of getting that product out on the street, right?
Right. I mean, when you think about product delivery or project management, even as a old school way of thinking, project managers, the product owner, the QA folks, the ops folks, they're not the ones that are out there writing code. Right? You have to keep that dialogue open, like you said, because at the end of the day, the people that are going to be going out there, the solutioning team, they're going to be down in the weeds delivering your product. You have to make sure that you're allowing them to give that feedback to not only the product owner, but the organization as a whole. Because if you upset them so much to the point that they leave, like we've been seeing with some large tech companies now in the wake of, what do they call it, like digital censorship on like Twitter and Facebook about what they will and won't censor, employees have just walked off the job because they're unhappy and they can go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And if you lose too many of your engineers, your solutioning team members, well, are you really going to be able to deliver value if there's nobody around to deliver it?
Yeah, so that's part of the beauty of Agile. If we're embracing Agile philosophies, if you will, is that balance and that sustainability. That word is often used, sustainability, and of the team. So when we employ and enforce limits based on capacity, that not only levels that sustainability aspect of the team, giving them room and latitude to breathe and be people and get quality work done so that they're not cutting corners, they're not working extra hours, they're not tired, they're not disgruntled, right? They want to come into work, they're happy about what they're doing and where they're doing it and who they're doing it with, right? And because they know that there's going to be time for them to do a good job, right? But there's also predictability that's built into that sustainable pace. So that's that part of the predictability that the team just bakes into the process by establishing these limits. So we can plan according to the capacity that the team can actually perform in. So that's huge. That's a huge aspect of the planning aspect is what can the team successfully do, right? So they have a voice in that.
Yeah, and you mentioned happiness,
Mhm.
which is morale, essentially, if we were to equate it to military. I was like, what is the team's morale? How happy are the individual team members?
It's huge.
And as a coach, there's a lot of people on the business side of the world. They want to see hard and fast metrics. They want everything quantified. They want to know, how do we increase velocity, right?
Mhm.
Which, we'll save that for another
We'll
conversation.
save that for another day. Thank you.
But they want everything quantified. They want to say, okay, we're at X, we need to go to Y. Quantitatively, how do we move that needle from X to Y?
Mm-hmm.
You start coming in, you start asking questions to the team about, what causes you pain, what is making you unhappy, and you start talking to them just as people, getting maybe like a little psychological with it. Because you can come into an organization and say, hey, we're gonna take you from way of working A and take you to way of working B, and they're gonna go, it's not possible. You're asking us to do way too much. It's very challenging. But if you come to them as people and say, hey, what's making you unhappy? Where are your challenges in your day-to-day life? Team members will gladly have that conversation with you for hours. They'll say, oh man, this process we're engaged in, super convoluted, makes us very unhappy. This process, oh man, it's been the same process for 20 years and I guarantee you it can be changed. And I have all these great ideas, right? So you allow them to not only air their grievances, but maybe vent a little bit. But as they're venting, they might even be solutioning or bringing to you an idea or a solution that you can take to, like the people on the team, they're going to know how to best fix their process because they've been engaged with it for so long.
Right. So yeah, that's all really great. Thanks for bringing that up. Another aspect of that is when the team doesn't get to pick, it's the members of the team, right? The team is formed by the administrative side of the house, right? So as team dynamics go, there's always going to be that period of time when the teams are coming together for the first time. Some of you may have worked together on other things, but some of you may be new to each other. So there's going to be that period of time. And so you always, I think people, because we're talking about people here, people will normally gravitate and cluster in groups that are familiar. You're like me, so I fit here, right? One of the benefits or the beauty, if you will, of a high-performing team. So that's also a term that we strive for as we bring these teams together, and we do a lot of things so that they are high-performing teams. A high-performing team is one that really learns how to appreciate each other, learns how to learn from each other. And we've also talked that, leaders will naturally emerge in groups. When we were talking earlier about being agile and personalities, if you will, in a agile, on the technology team, your solutioning team, there is no formal leader. The team members are equal. There is no, even if you have dominant type A personalities that must be in charge, must be in control, they must learn how to share that responsibility and be one with each other. Man, if we could make that work everywhere, right? So, but that is what we strive for in Agile as for these teams. So
they all share the role of developer.
Well, they all share, the role as team member, right?
But then, that kind of falls back into the conversation of we need to get finance and human resources on because there's a lot of people that want to be the senior lead engineer, architect, DevSecOps member and make that $300,000 paycheck living out on California coast.
So that's a great transition, and we didn't even plan that. Well done. So we're going to talk about other roles because we still have the Scrum Master role to talk to next. So the fourth part of the 4-part series are the other roles. So not yet. However, we're still talking about the team. And when we started this conversation here today, we talked about traditionally early on, when you mentioned the team, we thought about the development team, the technology team. Today, through times and evolvement, when we talk about the team, we make references to the team and the big team. So let's just explore that a little bit, right? So it's not just a cluster of 7 and 9 people or clusters of teams of 7 to 9 people. So it's a team of teams, right? So our product delivery model is made up of a variety of different people, a variety of different roles. It may even be a collection of teams. Size and scale and complexity of your organization and the product or products that we're talking about, you will have teams of teams. And they may be in that one product delivery value stream, if you will. So the business might be a team of teams that is funneling the requirements through the intake process to get down to the technology team. The product owners within the organization may form to be a team of teams as a community of practice, right? Like-minded people sharing experiences, learning from each other, and then taking that learning and those experiences back into their day-to-day activities. So when we talk about Agile and the organization and it growing and learning and embracing all of these different things, yes, it's not just confined to a single team of 7 to 9 people. That concept actually belongs to everybody, right? So we want to bring in that inclusiveness in the big team, right? So please keep that in mind, that everyone has a part in this, right? Everyone's important. Everyone should have a voice. So it's not just that team or that product owner or that Scrum Master. Eventually, we're going to bring in everybody, but that's the big team, right? So it takes a village, right? We've all heard that comment before too. So I just want to point that out, that the team we'll eventually talk about everyone.
Well, that's a wrap on another video, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to leave a like. And if you really like what we're doing here, don't forget to subscribe or share with your friends, family, coworkers. And, when we engage you in the comments, we answer your questions and move the needle forward for you and your organization. And we hope you keep tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next video.